The question came out of nowhere, slicing through the hum of the executive lounge like a blade through silk. "Do you have a man?" Sienna Blake froze mid-reach for the coffee carafe, her fingers hovering in the air. She'd been in Rome exactly 9 days. 9 days, working as the new acquisitions consultant for Valentino Holdings. 9 days, navigating marble hallways and learning Italian business etiquette. 9 days, pretending she belonged in a world of power suits and billion-dollar deals. And now Marco Santini, the company's charming but relentless vice president, stood too close to her personal space, grinning like he'd asked about the weather. "I'm sorry, what?" Sienna turned, her American directness clashing with his European familiarity. Marco's smile widened. "Do you have a man waiting for you back in New York? Boyfriend? Husband? Someone who'll be jealous when I take you to dinner tonight?" Heat crept up her neck. The lounge wasn't empty. 3 other executives occupied the leather couches near the windows, pretending not to listen but absolutely listening. "That's really personal, Marco. It's a simple question, Bella." He leaned against the counter, all confidence and expensive cologne. Yes or no. She should have walked away, should have deflected with professionalism and grace. But jet lag and culture shock and the wine from last night's welcome dinner made her reckless. "Not yet," she said, pouring her coffee with more force than necessary. "But I'm not interested in office romance, so—" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Sienna felt it before she saw him, a presence so commanding it pulled the oxygen from the air. She turned slowly, coffee cup trembling in her hand, and found Luca Valentino standing in the doorway. The man who owned the building, the company, half of Rome's luxury real estate. And, if the whispered rumors were true, significant pieces of Italy's underground empire. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, his dark hair perfectly styled, his jaw carved from marble and tension. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart. Cold, focused, burning with something she couldn't name. Those eyes locked on her like a predator sighting prey. "Mr. Valentino," Marco straightened immediately, his playful demeanor evaporating. "I didn't know you were out." Luca's voice was quiet, deadly. "Everyone, now." "Hey there, Tesoro. Real talk, if a dangerous man looked at you like you were oxygen and he was suffocating, would you stay or run for your life?" Sienna just made her choice, and honestly, Rome isn't ready for what happens next. When Luca Valentino calls you Mia Bellissima while threatening to burn the city for you, that's a whole different level. Is falling for a Mafia king brave or completely insane? Comment below and tell us where you are watching from, because I want to connect with you. Subscribe for daily chaos you don't want to miss, and let's watch this empire burn. The room emptied in seconds. Marco shot Sienna an apologetic glance before disappearing. The other executives scattered like smoke, and then it was just her and Luca Valentino, separated by 20 feet of Italian marble and a tension so thick she could taste it. He moved toward her with controlled precision, each step deliberate. "Miss Blake." "Mr. Valentino." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I was just discussing your personal life with my vice president in the middle of my executive lounge." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she caught his scent, something dark and expensive that made her pulse stutter. Interesting choice. "He asked me a question. I answered it." "Not yet." Luca repeated her words like they'd personally offended him. "That was your answer to whether you have a man." Sienna's spine straightened. "I don't see how that's your concern." "Everything in this building is my concern." His gaze traveled over her face, lingering on her lips for a fraction too long before returning to her eyes. "Especially when one of my employees is being harassed during work hours." "I wasn't being harassed. Marco was just being Marco." Luca's jaw tightened. which is exactly the problem. You've been here 9 days, Miss Blake. In that time, have you noticed how he operates?" She had. Marco flirted with everyone. Secretaries, clients, the woman who delivered the morning pastries. It was harmless, mostly. "He's friendly," she offered. "He's predictable." Luca stepped closer, 1 foot, then another. Sienna's back hit the counter. "And now he thinks you're available." "Not yet, might as well be an invitation." Her breath caught. "I can handle Marco." "I'm sure you can." His hand came up, fingers brushing the counter beside her hip, not touching her. Not quite. But close enough that heat radiated between them. "But you shouldn't have to. Not here. Not while you work for me." The possessiveness in those last 3 words made her stomach flip. "Mr. Valentino." "Luca." His eyes softened fractionally. "When it's just us, you call me Luca. That's inappropriate." So is asking an employee about her relationship status in a public lounge. He didn't move back, didn't give her space. But Marco did it anyway. So perhaps we're past appropriate? Sienna's pulse hammered. She'd seen Luca Valentino exactly twice before this moment. Once during her interview, where he'd sat silent and imposing while his HR director asked questions. Once in passing, when he'd walked through the hallway and every person had stopped breathing until he passed. She'd thought him cold, untouchable, a man who viewed employees as numbers on a spreadsheet. She'd been wrong. There was nothing cold about the way he looked at her now, nothing detached about the tension vibrating through his frame, or the way his fingers curled against the marble countertop, like he was restraining himself from touching her. "I need to get back to work," she whispered. "You need to understand something first." His voice dropped lower. Intimate. Men like Marco, they see someone like you, and they think opportunity. They think challenge. They think they can charm their way into something you're not offering. And what am I offering? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither of them could take back. Luca's eyes darkened. Nothing. To him. A pause. But if you ever decide that not yet becomes yes, you come to me first. Her breath stopped completely. "Excuse me. So I can ensure whoever earns that yes is worthy of you." He pushed away from the counter finally, creating distance that felt like a loss. "This is a dangerous city for a woman alone, Miss Blake, even in offices, especially in offices run by men who forget their manners." He was gone before she could form a response, leaving her alone with her racing heart and the fading scent of his cologne. That evening, Sienna stood in her tiny apartment, overlooking the Tiber, trying to make sense of what had happened. She'd replayed the encounter 100 times, searching for rational explanations. He was protecting his employee, establishing boundaries, being a responsible CEO. Except nothing about the way he'd looked at her felt responsible. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Your apartment building needs better security. I'm sending someone to install new locks tomorrow." LV Sienna stared at the screen. How did he know where she lived? She'd kept that information private, had insisted on finding her own place instead of using company housing. Before she could respond, another message appeared. "Don't argue, it's not negotiable." She typed back, "This is inappropriate." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. So was today. But here we are. Despite everything, she smiled, then immediately felt guilty for smiling. This was her boss, a man who probably had a dozen women on speed dial, a man whose reputation for ruthlessness extended far beyond boardrooms, a man who'd looked at her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. Sienna set down her phone and poured herself wine. This was going to be a problem. The next morning, she arrived at the office to find a security team installing a new lock on her apartment door. They worked with quiet efficiency, nodding respectfully when she passed. By the time she reached her desk, the system was complete. and there was a note waiting on her keyboard. Now I can sleep knowing you're safe. So, admiring your fan mail? Sienna jumped, spinning to find Marco leaning against her cubicle wall. He looked sheepish, almost apologetic. About yesterday, he started. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. The question was out of line. It's fine, Marco. It's not. He ran a hand through his hair. Luca called me into his office last night. Made it very clear that you're off limits. To everyone, especially me. Her stomach twisted. He what? Don't worry, I'm not fired or anything. But he was. Intense. More than usual. Marco studied her with new curiosity. You must have made quite an impression. He doesn't usually get involved in office dynamics, especially not over consultants who've been here less than 2 weeks. Before Sienna could respond, her phone buzzed. My office. Now. LV. Speak of the devil, Marco muttered, reading the message over her shoulder. Good luck, Bella. Try not to let him intimidate you too much. But as Sienna rode the private elevator to the executive floor, she realized intimidation wasn't what she felt. It was anticipation. Luca's office occupied the entire top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Rome's ancient skyline. He stood by those windows now, hands in his pockets, radiating controlled power. You wanted to see me? Sienna kept her voice professional. Close the door. She did. The click echoed in the massive space. Luca turned slowly. Did you get the locks? Yes, thank you. Though you didn't need to, I did. He crossed to his desk, leaning against it with casual grace that should be illegal. Your building has minimal security. Anyone could access the stairwell. The elevator requires no keycard. It's unacceptable. I've lived in New York for 6 years. I know how to handle myself. This isn't New York. Something flickered in his expression. Rome has different dangers, different rules. Rules you seem very familiar with. His lips curved. Not quite a smile. You've been listening to rumors. Hard not to when people whisper every time you walk by. And what do these whispers say? Sienna hesitated. The smart move was deflection, professional distance. But something about being alone with him in this sunlit office made her brave. That you're more than just a real estate mogul. That your family has other interests, other businesses that exist in shadows. Luca's expression didn't change. And does that frighten you? Should it? Yes. The honesty in his voice surprised her. If you were smart, you'd request a transfer back to New York immediately. You'd put an ocean between us and forget you ever walked into my building. But you're still standing here. He moved closer, which means you're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe I'm both. This time he did smile. Small, genuine, devastating. I'm beginning to suspect you're something else entirely, Miss Blake. Sienna. The correction came automatically. If we're past appropriate, you should use my name. Heat flared in his eyes. Sienna. He said it like a prayer, like a curse. Do you know why I called you up here? To discuss the security? To tell you that Marco won't be bothering you anymore. Neither will any other man in this building. He stopped directly in front of her. I've made that very clear to everyone. Her pulse raced. You can't just declare me off limits. That's necessary. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along, her jaw without quite making contact. You walk into rooms and people notice. You smile and they gravitate. You speak and they listen. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? I'm just doing my job. You're doing far more than that. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Barely. A whisper of touch that ignited every nerve ending. You're making me forget mine. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Luca, she breathed. Tell me to stop. His forehead dropped to hers. Tell me this is wrong. Tell me you want nothing to do with a man like me, and I'll step back. I'll be nothing but professional. I'll assign you a different supervisor, and we'll never be alone again." She should say yes, should protect her career, her heart, her sanity. "I can't," she whispered instead. He exhaled shakily. "Then God help us both." When he kissed her, it felt like falling and flying simultaneously. His mouth was gentle at first, testing, asking permission she gave without hesitation. Then, deeper, hungry, like he'd been starving, and she was sustenance. Sienna's hands fisted in his suit jacket, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat, one hand tangling in her hair, while the other splayed across her lower back. The kiss lasted forever and not nearly long enough. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca rested his forehead against hers. "This changes everything," he murmured. "I know. There will be consequences, questions, complications. I know. And you're not running." She looked up, meeting his intense gaze. "Not yet." His laugh was rough, beautiful. Those might be my new least favorite words. Why? Because "not yet" implies eventually. And I'm not a patient man when it comes to things I want. He cupped her face with both hands. "And I want you, Sienna Blake. More than I've wanted anything in a very long time." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. Then again. Then 3 more times in rapid succession. Luca's expression darkened as he checked the screen. "I have to take this." "Of course." She stepped back, smoothing her hair with shaking hands. "I should get back to work anyway." "Sienna." He caught her wrist gently. "Tonight. Have dinner with me. Somewhere away from this building. Somewhere we can actually talk. Is that wise? Probably not." His smile was crooked, boyish in a way that made her chest ache. "But wisdom hasn't served me well where you're concerned." "Then yes. Dinner." His kiss to her forehead was tender, reverent. "I'll send a car at 7. The car was a sleek black Mercedes, with a driver who spoke no English and drove like he was late for the apocalypse. Sienna gripped the door handle as they navigated Rome's chaotic streets, eventually pulling up to a restaurant that looked older than America. Luca waited outside, somehow even more devastating in dark jeans and a fitted black shirt. He opened her door himself, offering his hand. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Sienna glanced down at her dress. Nothing special. A simple blue wrap that showed her curves without screaming desperation. But the way Luca looked at her made her feel like royalty. Inside, the restaurant was intimate. Candlelit, a table in the corner already set for 2. The staff greeted Luca with the kind of deference reserved for family or feared men, possibly both. "Do you come here often?" Sienna asked as they settled into their seats. "My grandmother owns it. Has for 40 years. He poured wine with practiced ease. "It's one of the few places in Rome I can guarantee privacy. Because they're family. Because they're loyal." His eyes held hers. "Loyalty means everything in my world, Sienna. Remember that." The warning was clear, but so was the promise beneath it. They talked through multiple courses, about everything. Nothing. Her childhood in California, his complicated relationship with his father, her dreams of making a real impact in international business, his burden of family, expectations that went far beyond quarterly earnings. "The company is legitimate," Luca said carefully, swirling wine in his glass. "Everything we do publicly is legal, ethical, profitable." "And privately?" He studied her for a long moment. "My family has other interests, other responsibilities. Some of them exist in gray areas that would make you uncomfortable. Try me." "Sienna." "I'm not a child, Luca, and I'm not naive." She leaned forward. "I know what people say about the Valentino family, about connections to organized crime, protection rackets, money laundering. So if we're doing this, if we're actually going to be, whatever this is, I need the truth. His jaw tightened. The truth could put you in danger. So could ignorance. He laughed despite himself. You're relentless. I'm American. We're direct. It's genetic. This time his laugh was genuine, warm. Fine, yes. My family has connections to organizations that operate outside legal boundaries. No, I'm not personally involved in violence or trafficking or any of the truly dark things people imagine. But I benefit from those connections. I use them when necessary to protect my interests, and I won't apologize for that. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm asking you to be honest. Then here's honesty. He reached across the table, threading his fingers through hers. Being with me means accepting that parts of my life exist in darkness. It means understanding that I have enemies, that people might try to use you to hurt me, that your safety becomes my obsession, because losing you isn't an option I'm willing to entertain. Her heart hammered. That's a lot of pressure for a second date. This is our first date. The kiss in my office doesn't count. Why not? Because I wasn't thinking clearly. I was reacting, claiming. His thumb stroked her knuckles. Tonight, I'm choosing you with full awareness of what that choice means, and I need you to choose me the same way. Sienna looked at their joined hands, at this man who terrified and fascinated her in equal measure, at the future spreading out before them like uncharted territory. I choose you, she whispered. The relief on his face was profound. Then we move forward, together, but slowly. I need to ensure your safety first. Need to make arrangements. What kind of arrangements? The kind that keeps you alive if my enemies decide you matter. Before she could process that terrifying statement, Luca's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression darkening. I need to take this. One moment. He stepped away, voice dropping to rapid Italian too quick for her limited skills to follow. But she caught words. Names. One in particular that made Luca's entire body go rigid. Costa. When he returned to the table, all warmth had drained from his expression. We need to leave. Now. What's wrong? Not here. He threw cash on the table, far more than necessary, and guided her toward the exit with a hand on her lower back. My car. Quickly. The drive back was silent. Tense. Luca made 3 more calls in clipped Italian, while Sienna tried to control her racing heart. Whatever had happened, it was serious. They pulled up to her apartment building, and Luca walked her to her door, despite her protests. I'm fine, she insisted. You don't need to. Someone knows about you. He said it flatly. One of my rivals. He's asking questions, making inquiries. Cold dread pooled in her stomach. How? Because I've been careless, distracted. His hand cupped her face. I should have been more careful. Should have waited until I could protect you properly. Luca, you need to be vigilant. No walking alone at night. No accepting drinks from strangers. No deviating from your routine without telling me first. His eyes burned with intensity. And if anyone approaches you asking about me, you call me immediately. Understand? She nodded, throat tight. Say it, Sienna. I need to hear you say you understand. Understand. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and terrified, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. This is why I should have stayed away from you, he murmured. Why I should have let Marco have his harmless flirtation and kept my distance. Because now you're a target, and I'll burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. The vow should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safer than she'd ever felt in her life. Go inside, Luca said softly. Lock the door. I'm posting guards outside tonight. That's excessive. It's necessary. He kissed her forehead. Humor me, please. She did, and as she locked the door behind her, she heard him speaking in low tones to someone in the hallway, giving orders, establishing watch rotations. Sienna moved to her window and looked down at the street. Sure enough, 2 men in dark suits took up positions at the building entrance. Her phone buzzed. "Sleep well, Bellissima. You're safe. I promise." She typed back. "Are you?" The response came quickly. "With you in the world? Never. But I've never felt more alive." The following morning brought chaos. Sienna arrived at the office to find security doubled. Every entrance had guards checking IDs with unusual scrutiny. The executive floor was locked down completely, and Marco was waiting at her desk, expression grave. "We need to talk," he said. "Privately." They stepped into a conference room. Marco closed the door and blinds. "What's going on?" Sienna asked. "There was an incident last night, at one of Luca's properties. A fire. Arson, most likely." Marco's jaw tightened. 3 people injured. Could have been worse. Her heart stopped. "Luca. He's fine. He wasn't there. But he's—" Marco searched for words. "He's in a mood. Has been making calls all morning. The kind of calls that make people very nervous." "What kind of people?" Marco gave her a long look. "The kind who don't appreciate being threatened by Luca Valentino. The kind who might decide to threaten back." Cold understanding dawned. "This is about me." "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." He ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I don't know what's happening between you two. And I don't need to know. But Sienna, you need to understand something about Luca. When he cares about someone, he becomes dangerous. To himself, to others, to anyone who might threaten what's his. I'm not his—" "Yes, you are." Marco's voice was gentle but firm. "I've known Luca for 10 years, worked with him, partied with him, seen him with dozens of women. And I've never, not once, seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like you're oxygen and he's suffocating. Like losing you would break something fundamental inside him." Her breath caught. "So please," Marco continued, "be careful. Not just with your safety, but with his heart. Because if something happens to you, there won't be enough of Rome left to bury the aftermath." Before Sienna could respond, the conference room door opened. Luca stood there, looking like he hadn't slept. His suit was wrinkled, hair disheveled, eyes wild with something between fury and fear. "Out," he said to Marco. Marco left without argument. Luca crossed to Sienna in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms with desperate strength. "You're safe. You're here. You're safe." "I'm fine," she whispered against his chest. "Luca, I'm fine." He pulled back just enough to cup her face, thumbs stroking her cheekbones, as he studied her like he was cataloging every detail. "I need you to leave Rome." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "Just for a few weeks, until I handle this situation. I'll send you somewhere safe. Switzerland, maybe. Or back to New York. Somewhere they can't—" "No." His eyes widened. "Sienna, this isn't negotiable." "You're right. It's not." She grabbed his wrists, holding his hands against her face. "Because I'm not leaving you. Not when someone's threatening you. Not when you need people you trust around you. That's exactly why you need to go. Because I can't think clearly with you here. Can't make rational decisions when every choice is filtered through keeping you safe. Then trust me to keep myself safe. I can't." His voice broke. "Not after last night. Not after seeing what they did to that building, knowing it was a message meant for me. A warning that they can reach the things I care about. So we fight back, together. You don't understand what that means. Then explain it to me." She pulled his hands down but didn't release them. "Stop trying to protect me from information. Stop making decisions for me. Tell me who we're fighting and how we win." Luca stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. His name is Giovanni Costa. He's been trying to move into my territories for months. I've blocked him at every turn. So now he's getting creative, targeting my businesses, my people. His jaw clenched. You. What does he want? Leverage, fear, submission. Luca's eyes hardened. Things he'll never get. So what do we do? We. Yes, we. I'm involved now whether you like it or not. So either trust me as a partner or send me away. But you don't get both. You don't get to kiss me like I'm your future and then sideline me when things get dangerous. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition that she wouldn't back down. You're extraordinary, he murmured, and terrifying. I'm American. It's genetic. His laugh was rough but genuine. Then he sobered, pulling her close again. If you stay, you follow my rules. Security at all times. No going anywhere alone. And you trust me to do what's necessary. Even if it's violent? Especially then. He met her eyes. I won't apologize for protecting what's mine, Sienna. And you are mine. Completely. Irrevocably. Mine. The possessive declaration should have set off alarms. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in her belly. Then I'm yours, she whispered. And you're mine. Which means we protect each other. He kissed her like he was sealing a vow, deep and claiming and absolutely certain. When they finally broke apart, Luca's phone was ringing again. He ignored it. You should probably take that, Sienna said. They can wait. You're more important. Luca, they can wait, he repeated firmly. Then softer. Stay in the building today. I need to handle some things. But tonight, you come home with me. To my house, where security is tighter and I can actually sleep knowing you're safe. Is that appropriate? His smile was dark, promising. No, but I stopped caring about appropriate the moment you walked into my life. Luca's house wasn't a house. It was a fortress, disguised as a Renaissance villa on the outskirts of Rome, surrounded by walls that had probably witnessed centuries of violence. Guards patrolled the perimeter, with weapons that were definitely not legal. Cameras tracked every angle, and when the gates closed behind the car, Sienna felt like she'd entered a different world entirely. "This is where you live?" she asked, staring at the 3-story structure dripping with history and menace in equal measure. "One of several properties. But this is home." Luca helped her from the car, his hand settling possessively on her lower back. "The only place I actually sleep." Inside was surprisingly warm, antique furniture mixed with modern comfort. Books lined shelves in multiple languages. Photographs of family dotted the mantel, including one of a young Luca with an older woman who had his same intense eyes. "My grandmother," he said, following her gaze. "She raised me after my mother died, taught me everything about loyalty, family, protection. She sounds formidable." She was terrifying. His smile was soft with memory. You would have liked her. She had no patience for weak men or dishonest ones. Would have approved of you entirely. Because I'm not weak? Because you see me clearly and choose me anyway. He pulled her close, arms wrapping around her waist from behind, as they both stared at the photograph. That takes either courage or madness. Still thinking it's both, his laugh rumbled against her back. Then his phone buzzed. Again. He ignored it. Again. "You really should take these calls," Sienna said. "Later. Right now, I need to know you're settled, safe, comfortable." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "I'll have Elena bring your things up. She's my housekeeper. Discreet. Loyal. She'll make sure you have everything you need." "Luca, I can't just move in." "You're not moving in. You're staying temporarily while I handle the Costa situation." His arms tightened. "Please don't fight me on this. I need to know where you are. Need to know you're protected." The vulnerability in his voice undid her protests. Okay, but just until it's safe. Just until it's safe, he agreed, though something in his tone suggested he had no intention of ever letting her leave. That evening, Sienna found herself in Luca's study while he made call after call in rapid Italian. She'd positioned herself on the leather couch with her laptop, pretending to work on acquisition reports, while actually watching him pace and gesture and radiate controlled violence. Every conversation ended the same way, with Luca issuing what sounded like threats in a voice so cold it made her shiver. Finally, around midnight, he ended the last call and collapsed into the chair behind his desk, scrubbing both hands over his face. That bad? Sienna asked quietly. Costa is pushing harder than I anticipated. He's made moves on 3 of my properties tonight. Small things. Vandalism, harassment, testing my response time. Luca's jaw clenched. He wants me distracted, wants me to make mistakes. Are you? Distracted? Completely. He looked at her with raw honesty. Every decision I make is filtered through keeping you safe. Every move I consider is weighed against the risk to you. So yes, I'm distracted. And he knows it. Sienna closed her laptop and crossed to him, settling into his lap before she could second-guess the impulse. His arms came around her immediately, pulling her close. Then undistract yourself, she said. Trust your security, trust your people, and trust me to stay safe while you do what you need to do. You make it sound simple, isn't it? You're Luca Valentino. Everyone's terrified of you. So remind Costa why that fear is justified. His laugh was dark. You're asking me to be the monster everyone believes I am. I'm asking you to protect what's yours. She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Including yourself. Because if something happens to you, while you're too busy worrying about me, I'll never forgive either of us. He kissed her then. Slow and deep and desperate. Like she was an anchor in a storm he couldn't control. When they finally broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. I love you, he whispered. I know it's too soon, too fast, but I've never been more certain of anything. Her heart stopped. Luca, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Needed you to understand why I'm willing to burn everything down to keep you safe. Because you're not just someone I'm protecting. You're the only person I've ever loved this way. Completely. Irrevocably. Tears burned her throat. I love you too. I've been trying not to. Trying to be rational and cautious and smart. But I love you, Luca Valentino. All of you. Even the parts that terrify me. His kiss this time was different. Claiming. Possessive. He stood with her in his arms, carrying her out of the study and up the stairs to a bedroom that was clearly his. All dark wood and masculine simplicity. He set her down gently, hands framing her face. Tell me to stop, and I will. But if you let me start, I won't be gentle. Won't be able to hold back. Because I need you, Sienna. Need to make you mine in every way that matters. She answered by pulling him down to her. What followed was a blur of desperate hands and whispered confessions. Luca worshipped every curve, every inch of skin, like she was sacred. And when they finally came together, it felt like something fundamental shifting into place. 2 broken pieces finding perfect alignment. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts still racing, while Rome glittered beyond the windows. You're mine now, Luca murmured against her hair. In every way. And I'm yours, completely. No taking it back, she whispered. Never. His arms tightened. You're stuck with me, Bellissima. For better or worse. Then we better make sure it's better. His laugh was soft. Content. With you. It already is. The next morning shattered their peace. Sienna woke to shouting downstairs. Loud, angry. Multiple voices in Italian too rapid to follow. She grabbed one of Luca's shirts and descended the stairs to find chaos in the foyer. Luca stood toe-to-toe with a man who could only be described as dangerous, older, scarred, with eyes that had seen too much violence. "You're being reckless," the man snarled in accented English, clearly for Sienna's benefit. "Bringing her here, making her a target. This isn't how we operate, Luca." "I don't answer to you, Enzo. You answer to the family. And the family doesn't appreciate." Luca moved so fast, Sienna barely tracked it. One moment he was standing calmly. The next, he had Enzo pressed against the wall, forearm across his throat. "Choose your next words carefully," Luca said quietly. "Deadly. Because if you finish that sentence the way I think you will, we're going to have a problem." Enzo's eyes flicked to Sienna, then back to Luca. "She's a liability. She's mine, and anyone who threatens her answers to me, including you, including the family, including God himself if he decides to weigh in." Luca's voice never rose above conversational. "Are we clear?" "Crystal." Luca released him and turned to find Sienna on the stairs, eyes wide. His expression softened immediately. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have heard that." "Who is he?" "Enzo Caruso, my father's oldest friend, family advisor." Luca's jaw tightened, and apparently someone who's forgotten his place. Enzo straightened his jacket, rubbing his throat. "I'm trying to protect you, boy. Costa isn't playing games. Last night's attacks were just the beginning. He's planning something bigger. And while you're distracted with your American girl, her name is Sienna," Luca interrupted, "and she stays. Non-negotiable. Even if it costs you everything, especially then." He crossed to Sienna, taking her hand. "Because she's not a distraction. She's the reason I fight, the reason I win. And anyone who doesn't understand that can get the hell out of my house." Enzo studied them both for a long moment. Then surprisingly, he smiled. "Your grandmother would have liked her. Stubborn, brave, stupid enough to love a Valentino." "Hey," Sienna protested. "It's a compliment, Bella. We're not easy men to love. Takes a special kind of strength." Enzo's expression sobered. "But Luca's right about one thing. You're a target now. Costa knows about you. Has people watching this house, watching the office. If you're going to stay, you need to be smart. Careful. I can handle myself. I'm sure you can, but handling yourself in New York is different from handling yourself in a Mafia war." He looked at Luca. "She needs training, protection protocols, emergency procedures." "Already arranged," Luca said. "Marco is coordinating with our security team. She'll have a full detail starting today." Sienna's head spun. "A full detail? Luca, that's excessive. It's necessary." His tone left no room for argument. "And non-negotiable. You want to stay? These are the terms." She wanted to protest, wanted to assert her independence, but looking at the genuine fear in his eyes, the desperate need to keep her safe, she couldn't. "Fine, but I'm not hiding in this house forever. Not forever. Just until I end this." The way he said it made her blood run cold. "What are you planning? What's necessary?" He kissed her forehead. "Trust me." The security detail consisted of 2 men who looked like they could bench press cars. They followed Sienna everywhere, to the office, to the cafe across the street, even to the bathroom at one point before she put her foot down. By day 3, she was ready to scream. "This is insane," she told Luca over dinner at the villa. "I can't live like this. Can't work. Can't breathe. Can't think. It's temporary." "You keep saying that. But when does it end? When do we get to have a normal life? When Costa is no longer a threat? And when will that be?" His silence was answer enough. Sienna set down her fork. "I can't do this, Luca. I can't be locked in a gilded cage while you wage war. That's not a relationship. That's captivity. Pain flashed across his face. I'm trying to keep you alive. I know, and I love you for it. But you're suffocating me. Can't you see that? She reached for his hand. I need to feel like a person, not a possession you're protecting. You're not a possession. Then treat me like a partner. Let me help. Let me be part of the solution instead of the problem you need to solve. He pulled his hand away, standing abruptly. You want to help? You want to be part of this? Fine. Come with me. He led her to his study, pulling up files on his computer. Security footage, financial records, surveillance photos, all centered on Giovanni Costa. This is who we're dealing with, Luca said, voice hard. A man who traffics in drugs, weapons, and human misery, who's killed 17 people that we know of, who would torture you for information and then kill you anyway, just to make a point. Sienna's stomach turned, looking at the images, but she didn't look away. This is the world you're asking to be part of, Luca continued. Not boardrooms and contracts, blood, violence, choices that stain your soul. So tell me, Sienna, you still want to help? She met his eyes. Yes, because this is your world, and I love you, which means I don't get to cherry-pick the parts I'm comfortable with. His expression crumbled. I don't want this for you. Don't want to drag you into darkness. You're not dragging me anywhere. I'm choosing you, all of you, even the parts that scare me. She cupped his face. So, let me in. Completely. Or let me go. But stop trying to protect me from reality. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. If anything happens to you, it won't. Because we're smarter than Costa, stronger, and we have something he doesn't. What's that? Each other. The attack came 3 days later. Sienna was leaving the office, flanked by her security detail, when the first shot rang out. Glass exploded. People screamed, and suddenly she was being thrown into a car, bodyguards shouting into radios while tires squealed. What's happening? She gasped. Ambush! Stay down! More gunfire. The car swerved violently, and Sienna hit her head on the doorframe. Everything went fuzzy. Then dark. She woke in an unfamiliar room. Concrete walls, single light bulb, hands zip-tied behind her back. Panic clawed at her throat. The door opened. Giovanni Costa walked in, and Sienna understood immediately why Luca feared him. He had empty eyes, dead eyes, the kind that had stopped seeing people as human long ago. Miss Blake. Finally. His accent was thick, menacing. Luca's little American. Do you know how long I've wanted to meet you? Where are my guards? Dead. Or close enough. He pulled up a chair, sitting backwards on it. Don't worry, you'll join them soon. But first, we're going to have a conversation about your boyfriend. About his businesses, his accounts, his weaknesses. I don't know anything. Then I guess this will be unpleasant for both of us. He pulled out a knife. Luca's phone. Call came while he was in a meeting with Enzo and his captains. The moment he heard his security chief's voice, he knew. We lost her. The world stopped. Say that again. Ambush on Via Veneto. 2 guards dead. 1 critical. They took Miss Blake. We're tracking. Luca didn't hear the rest. He was already moving, grabbing weapons, issuing orders in a voice so cold his men flinched. Find her. Now. Use every resource. Call in every favor. I want Costa's location in the next hour, or start clearing your desks. Luca, Enzo started. Don't. He turned, eyes blazing. Don't tell me to be calm. Don't tell me to think strategically. They have her. They have Sienna. And I will burn this entire city to ash to get her back. Then let's burn it together. Enzo stood. I'll mobilize everyone. Every soldier. Every contact. We'll find her." They did. 47 minutes later, they had Costa's location, an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. Predictable. Fitting. Perfect for what Luca was about to do. He went in with 12 men, weapons loaded, intentions clear. And when the firefight started, Luca moved through it like a man possessed. He felt nothing. Saw nothing except the path to Sienna. He found her in a basement room, bleeding from a cut on her forehead, hands bound, but alive. Gloriously, miraculously alive. "Luca," she breathed. He was on his knees beside her, cutting her restraints, pulling her into his arms. "I've got you. You're safe. I've got you." Costa is being dealt with. He cupped her face, checking for injuries. "Did he hurt you? Tell me the truth." "Just scared me and cut my head. But I'm okay. He kissed her, desperate and grateful and absolutely certain. When he pulled back, there were tears on his face. "I thought I lost you. Thought I'd be too late. Thought—" His voice broke. "But you weren't. You found me. You saved me. Always. I'll always find you. Always save you. Always keep you safe. That's my promise, Sienna, for the rest of our lives." Behind them, gunfire continued. Shouts, violence. But in that moment, wrapped in each other's arms, they were untouchable. Costa didn't survive the night. Neither did most of his organization. Luca made sure of it, methodically dismantling every piece of the threat with ruthless efficiency. By dawn, it was over. Sienna spent the night at the villa, cleaned up by a doctor Luca kept on retainer. The cut on her head required stitches, but nothing serious. Her wrists were bruised from the restraints, but mostly, she was just exhausted. Luca refused to leave her side. He sat in a chair by the bed, holding her hand, looking like he'd aged a decade overnight. "You should sleep," Sienna said softly. "Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see you in that room, hurt, scared, and I wasn't there. But you came, you saved me. I almost didn't. If we'd been 5 minutes later, but you weren't." She pulled him onto the bed beside her. "Stop torturing yourself. I'm here. I'm safe. We're both okay." He gathered her close, burying his face in her hair. "I can't lose you. Can't survive it. You've become essential to me, Sienna, like breathing, like my heartbeat. I need you to exist. Then let me exist beside you, not behind walls and bodyguards. Beside you, as your partner, your equal." He pulled back to look at her. "You want to be part of my world? Really part of it? Even after tonight?" "Especially after tonight, because now I understand what you face, what you risk, and I want to face it with you. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. There will be danger. Always. Then we'll be dangerous together." His smile was slow, beautiful. "You're extraordinary. I'm American. It's genetic." "I know." He kissed her softly. "I have something I need to ask you, something I was going to wait for. But after tonight, after almost losing you, I can't wait anymore." He pulled a box from his pocket. Inside was a ring that probably cost more than her education. Simple, elegant, perfect. "Marry me," he said. "Not because it's practical or strategic, not to keep you safe or claim you publicly. Marry me because I love you, because you are the only future I want, the only happiness I've ever really known. Marry me, Sienna Blake, and make me the luckiest man in Rome." Tears streamed down her face. Yes. Absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, kissing her with a gentleness that contrasted everything the night had held. When they finally broke apart, both were crying. "I love you," he whispered. "More than power. More than family. More than my own life. I love you too. All of you. Forever." They held each other as dawn broke over Rome. Two people who'd found something rare and precious in the midst of violence and chaos. Something worth fighting for, worth dying for, worth living for. 6 months later, they married in the same restaurant where they'd had their first date. Luca's grandmother's place. Small ceremony, just family, and the people who mattered most. Sienna wore simple white. Luca couldn't stop staring, and when they exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "You've made me better," Luca said, voice thick with emotion. "Made me want to be more than what I was raised to be. Given me a reason to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of conquer. I vow to love you every day, to keep you safe, to be worthy of the gift you've given me." "You've shown me strength," Sienna replied. "Real strength. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that protects. You've given me a home, a family, a love I never knew existed. I vow to stand beside you, to be your partner in everything, to love you through darkness and light." They sealed their promises with a kiss that felt like destiny. A year after that, Sienna stood in the nursery of the villa, hand on her swollen belly, watching Rome's sunset through bulletproof windows. Luca appeared behind her, arms wrapping around her waist, hands covering hers on their unborn daughter. "Thinking about something," he murmured. "About how far we've come, how different my life is from what I imagined." "Regrets?" "Not a single one." She turned in his arms. "You gave me everything I didn't know I needed. Adventure, passion, a love that's bigger than fear. You gave me more. You gave me a reason to be better, a future worth building, a family I actually want to protect instead of obligation demanding I protect." He kissed her softly. "You saved me, Sienna Valentino." We saved each other. Their daughter kicked between them, making them both laugh. Luca dropped to his knees, pressing kisses to Sienna's belly. "You're going to be so loved, Piccola, so protected. Your mother is the strongest woman I know. And your father?" He looked up at Sienna. "Your father will make sure you never know fear, never know pain, never doubt for a second that you're the most important thing in his world." Sienna ran her fingers through his hair, heart so full it ached. "Second most important." "Second?" He stood, pulling her close. "Because I'm the first." His laugh was pure joy. "Always and forever, Bellissima. You're always first." They stood together as night fell over Rome. Two people who'd built something beautiful from violence and chaos. A family, a future. A love that had conquered every obstacle placed in their path. Somewhere in the city, dangers still lurked, enemies still plotted, the world still spun with violence and uncertainty. But here, in this fortress that had become a home, Luca and Sienna had created something untouchable, something pure, something that proved love could bloom even in the darkest soil. And as their daughter kicked again, reminding them of the future growing between them, they both knew with absolute certainty that they'd chosen right, chosen each other, chosen this impossible, beautiful, dangerous love. It had started with a question, "Do you have a man?" and ended with a truth more powerful than any lie. Yes, she had the only man who mattered. The one who'd fight the world to keep her, the one who'd burned cities to protect her, the one who loved her with an intensity that made everything else fade to nothing. Luca Valentino, her husband, her partner, her home, and she was his, completely, irrevocably, forever. The end. If you made it to the end, you're my kind of person. 2 things before you go. 1. Smash that like button if this story gave you butterflies. Takunit. Subscribe because next week's story is even more intense. You do not want to miss it. Drop your favorite moment in the comments. I read every one. See you in the next story, gorgeous.